Hello, and welcome to the 2014 Port Alberni Mayoral Debate. I'm Mark Hanley, and I'll be your moderator for the day. I'd like to thank Shaw TV and 93.3 The Peak for helping us bring this presentation to you today. We're glad for their support. Before we start in the actual process and introduce the candidates to you, I would like to introduce our journalistic team. From the Alberni Valley Times, Eric Plummer. From the Alberni News, Susie Quinn. And from 93.3 The Peak, David Wucher. Welcome. Thanks for being here today. Our journalists met before the debate and developed a series of questions, agreed upon to those questions, that they will be asking the candidates shortly. In fact, now what I would like to do is explain our process before we meet the candidates. Each candidate will be given an opportunity to address the public, you, the voter of Port Alberni, to begin the debate. After that, we will have a question period. As I've said, the questions have been predetermined, and each candidate will have an opportunity to answer each question. The order of processing and the timing has all been agreed to before we started the debate. So I think at that point, it is now time for me to introduce 6 of the 7 candidates for the position of Mayor of Port Alberni for 2014. First, we have Maurice Chopin. Hello, Maurice.
Got it right.
Thank you. I worked on that one. John Douglas.
Thank you.
Kevin Wright.
Thank you very much.
Cindy Solda.
Hi.
Hira Chopra.
Thank you.
And Mike Rattan. One candidate, our 7th candidate, Mr. Jacques Savard, was invited to the debate today, but has not been able to make it. Okay, if we are in fact ready, we have decided that the 2-minute speeches would be done in the order that the candidates appear on the ballot, and therefore, Maurice, you are the first person to speak. You have 2 minutes starting now.
All right, thank you. I have 4 main priorities should I become mayor. First one would be to introduce cost management model at City Hall. I'd like to see spending at City Hall actually cut severely and reduce the residential tax by an equal amount. My second priority would be to appoint a task force to deliver a cohesive, workable, and measurable economic plan to grow our economy. Priority 3 would be to deal with public safety. That would include catastrophic preparedness, crime and crime prevention, fire service and fire protection, and anything else that deals with the protection of our citizens. My 4th priority would be to appoint a task force to deal with social issues in our city. These would be poverty, hunger, illness, addiction, violence, literacy, social behavior, homelessness, medical services, and anything else that deals with social problems in our city. Other measures that I would be taken would be to cap the industrial and the commercial property tax and contain the residential taxes as low as we possibly can. Another one would be an aggressive lobbying the BC government to take action to protect the watershed, freeze city employee hires, eliminate staff redundancies, retool the uptown and waterfront redevelopment plan, work with our valley and labor partners to grow our economy, work to establish a provincially accredited college campus, and explore and implement measures so that all of our citizens have access to a safe beach. Thank you.
Thank you, Maurice. John Douglas.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us, and thanks to all the people here for stepping forward to combat for this seat. I've had the privilege of serving as your mayor in Port Alberni for the previous 3 years. Prior to that, while coming from a background career in healthcare as a paramedic, I served for 3 years as one of your city councillors. It's only now that we're beginning to move Port Alberni into a better place using the initiatives and relationships which have been built. And now we need to start moving forward at a faster pace to economic growth, diversity, and jobs. Health, seniors, education, industry, tourism, and small business, beautification, and our environment. These 6 items are the main pillars of my vision for a new Port Alberni, and they all add up to an economic diversity, meaning jobs and healthy lifestyles. Health is the major employer in Port Alberni and provides not only services but careers for lifelong employment. Seniors need health services for a comfortable lifestyle. Seniors by this provide a significant portion of employment for younger citizens. We need more educational opportunities for our youth, an expanded curriculum for training, expanded educational institutions for people in that field to work in. Industry, we need to retain and sustain our industrial partners. Tourism is a much untapped field which can yield great dividends in our future. Small business is big business. Beautification and our environment is a key to Port Alberni in attracting new residents. New residents bring new jobs, new ideas, new opportunity, and a larger tax base, meaning more sustainable taxes. Please reach out to contact me if you have any questions on my website. We have the best community and an awesome opportunity at this pivot point in our town's history, an opportunity to create a new team. The next term, if I have the honor of being chosen as your mayor, I would love to have the privilege of working with that awesome team, of helping to build a new team for a new Port Alberni. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Kevin Wright, please.
Thank you. Help wanted. Seeking an accomplished business professional and/or active community leader, an individual with leadership qualities, extensive sales experience, enthusiastic work ethic, and vision. Must be open and available, well-dressed and approachable. The job requires an ability to work with the team and have an open mind. You must be willing and able to be at any moment be available for meetings pertaining to serious social issues, as well as attending less serious but equally important parades, fairs, socials, and charity events. The prospective applicant would also be required to be a cheerleader and role model for their community and showcase all that it has for this great city. They must have the ability to set aside their own personal goals and issues and ensure that a community comes first. The successful applicant will be faced with many challenges, including employment, affordable housing, healthcare, infrastructure, public transport, vision, and most importantly, community morale. This campaign is in reality one long job interview, and the city is here to choose a new employee. They are looking for a person who has shown the ability in their daily life to have dedicated community spirit and works hard for their city. In the past 2 years, I have donated well over 1,000 hours of my time in helping the Uptown with marketing programs, including organizing and attending meetings, designing and making Uptown signs, as well as canvassing for monies to pay for radio ads, newspaper ads, and special functions, as well as beautification programs. I am on the board of the Chamber of Commerce and have personally attended dozens of City Council meetings, as well as making no less than 5 presentations to City Council. I have also worked very closely with city staff and dedicated hundreds of hours of paid and unpaid time seeking financial stability with the McLean Mill, as well as extensive programs for small business initiatives throughout the entire community. I have extensive sales experience and marketing expertise and have traveled the entire country working with trade shows and dealing with dozens of clients. I believe my business and marketing knowledge is what Port Alberni needs right now. Thank you for your consideration. Kevin Wright for Mayor.
Thank you, Kevin. Cindy Solda, please.
Thank you. I believe I have the experience, leadership, and integrity that will be needed to keep our community moving forward in the time of transition. During my 13 years as your city councillor, I have built relationships with leaders and government officials outside this community. We need to reduce the taxes, build healthier relationships and communications with our partners on all levels of government. We need to first look after our aging infrastructure. We need to encourage and promote opportunities for our youth to find meaningful employment in our community to ensure that they want to live here along with the retirees and that our infrastructure can support them without a drain on our taxes. And you know what? That's happening. We have an $8.3 million project coming down at the waterfront that's going to hire 20 people plus maybe. 8.5 rebuilt at the Somas Hotel. That's not including construction as well as hiring about 10, 20 people. We have a 6.3 expansion on the airport, that's construction, and then a $1.6 million airport hangar expansion with Colson's, and at about 60 to 80 jobs. And there's other things that are happening in this community. We need to work at getting more businesses and industries into our community. That in turn will create more employment and more dollars to our tax base, and in turn will decrease taxes, but not forgetting the existing businesses and industry. We also need to promote tourism. We need to work with service groups and industry on Canal Beach so it'll reopen without controversy for the 2015 summer season. There's so much more in this community that I've been involved with, and working with the Uptown, not the Uptown merchants, but the Johnson Road and Redford area. We've walked that beat and we've talked to the merchants, and we also have helped them come along where they are today, and we still have lots more work to do. So check out my website, cindysolda.com. You'll find a lot more about me. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Hira?
Hello, everyone. My name is Hira Chopra, and I would like to be your mayor. I have lived and worked in Port Alberni for over 34 years, and I'm proud to call Port Alberni my home. I believe that I have excellent skills and experience to provide the leadership to help our great city to get the next level. My experience includes 18 years as a councillor for the city of Port Alberni, 5 years as the chair of regional district. That gave me the experience how to be the captain of the team, successful businessman, and also I'm an executive board member of USW 185 Union. My education qualification, I have a bachelor degree in economics, master degree in history, and diploma in physical education. And I'm working man. I work at APD at the sawmill. I have made lots of connection with the other level of government, other level of unions, other level of First Nation to bring this town on further level. As your mayor, I stand for that I have a plan to work with my council team to help and they freeze the residential tax for the next 2 years. We were able to reduce industrial tax from 60% to 41% before to save jobs. Now is the time to look at the homeowner interest. We will balance our city budget without increasing taxes through better use of our income to those core services that we are needed. Work together with council, provincial, federal governments, First Nation, and strong economic partnership that create jobs for our seniors and for our kids. I believe I have the knowledge, experience, and leadership skills to take our city to the next level. Please look at my resume, my experience. Please vote Hara Chopra on November 15. Thank you.
Thank you, Hira. And our final speaker so far, Mike, would you like to start?
Hello, my name is Mike Cretan. I was born and raised here in the Alberni Valley, and I was previously principal of Alberni District Secondary School and involved in the design and construction of the new secondary school here, the new ADSS, that this community is so proud of. I offer to the community my skills of mediation, consensus building, making decisions and focusing on those decisions and sticking with them, not getting distracted by other events that may conspire to get in the way. I believe that we as a city can have an economy that is sustainable and growing. And I believe that the economy in this community can be led by a city council that is respectful, that's accountable, that's consultative, that's transparent in its decision-making, and that reports back to the community on a regular, predictable basis. Many people have asked me over the years to run for the position as mayor. And because my job as principal was so all-consuming, I always put them off. But now that I'm retired, I have the time and the energy and the connections in order to make that position into what it really can be, a true leadership position that sparks an interest, sparks an ability, and sparks a keen desire on the part of the people in this community to contribute. Port Alberni is a community on the right at the crossroads. People are aching to contribute to make it a better place. We need to work together to create a successful city, one that promotes its livability and sends a clear message that it's a good place to live and invest. Thank you.
Sorry about that, Mike. Thank you for that, Mike. All right, so we have now heard from all of our candidates that are here today in terms of those interested in running for the mayor of Port Alberni. We're going to move into our question period now, and as I've said, the questions have been predetermined by our journalistic panel, and the first question will come from Eric, and Mike Rattan will have the first opportunity to answer, followed by the rest of the candidates. Eric, to you.
Since the year 2000, property taxes for the average homeowner have nearly doubled. And according to the city's current 5-year financial plan, there's more significant hikes on the horizon. How exactly can this trend be stopped?
tax money is a matter of choices. So if we're going to be making choices not to increase taxes, then we have to make choices about what our expenditures need to be. As a city, we need to really look carefully at every single expenditure and make sure that we consult really widely. And we need to make sure that that consultation begins as early in the process as it can possibly begin. This city should have already started in preparation for the 2015 budget. We have discussions that need to occur about permissive tax exemptions. We have discussions that need to occur in terms of what are those things we need to spend money on, and we need to have discussions about what are our priorities? How do they fit into what was already established, and are there things that need to change? But the citizens need to know what they are. They need to feel that it's something, decisions those are made that they can support.
Thank you, Mike. Ira Troker.
The same answer?
Same question.
Yeah.
Same question.
So
You
my
could make the same answer.
Yeah, my answer for that question is, if there's a will, there's a way. We did it before for the major industry. We did it for the residential people in 2007. I have a record in front of me that we did in 2007 for the residential increase. There was no increase at all. There's a room to cut some gravy train there. There's a way to do things, even simple method. If we can tell all our head of the department, I need 2% cut in your department, they can find the way. If the leadership is strong, you tell your people what you're expecting, you will get the result. I think if I got my support from my council, there's nothing we can't do it. We can do it. There's a will, there's a way. And that's all I can say.
Thank you, Ira. Cindy, please.
We have fixed costs, and what do we do with that? Just like any homeowners, you have hydro, you have telephone, so we have fixed costs. We also have to do a 5-year plan. We have no choice. We're legislated to do that. So when we have a tax, we look at it every year. And as an example, this year, we started off with 7.5. We went down to 5.5. We went down to 3.5, and then when we were ready to pass it, I put a halt on it and asked for a motion to take another look at it before we did it. And when we did look at it, we went actually down to 2.3. It's just a starting point. You can chop it away, you can do whatever you want, but you still have fixed costs. And if you want to get down to a 0, what services do we take away, if there is any services, or what do we do? And that's exactly what we did to get to 2.3. We took away 2 things, and that's all it is. It's just a starting point when you do your taxes. We can get lower, we can do whatever, however we want to go, with consultation from the public too. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Kevin Wright?
Exactly that. As reflected here, we have to look at economizing and trying to find ways to cut. It's pretty standard stuff that you have to look at. We're looking at how they're spending money and where they're spending money. And Mike is absolutely correct. We have to expand the budget and start earlier, to start finding economy earlier, to allow it so it isn't compressed into such a short period of time, making it difficult for us to actually make those decisions. You're overwhelmed when it comes down to budget time. As I've attended watching these meetings, you get hundreds of pictures, you get thousands of photographs, and you get thousands of documents entailed in every single project you have to do. So you have to kind of pare that all down and try to find economy and everything from that. So I always am very marveled at watching council trying to digest all that material in such a short period of time. It does take a lot of experience, and it does take a lot of time to go through all those budgets and make sure that its economy can be found. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. John Douglas, please.
Thanks very much. Thanks for the question, Eric. The average property owner in Port Alberni pays approximately $200 a month for residential taxes. In 2012, they paid roughly about an increase of about $8 a month. In 2013, the increase was roughly about $5.50 a month. And so we're sort of headed in the right direction. We have to get a balance between the quality of life, the things we want in our community, and what's sustainable as far as paying taxes. We decreased industrial taxes in order to keep our industrial partners in past years. We could increase them again in order to decrease residential taxes. I think the wiser way to go, though, is to make us less dependent on industrial taxes and find refinements in the models of our delivery, how we deliver products, changes we can make due to retirements, and attract new residents through beautification of the community, and therefore build up our tax base and make us more sustainable. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Maurice Chaubin?
Hi. My proposal is quite simple. That would be, firstly, is that our city has to cut spending. It's got to be done. And if we don't do this, it's just going to get worse as time goes on. I mean, we do have some priorities, but we also may want to we'll have a second look at those and adjust them accordingly. Now, in Economics 101, the concept is taxes and, I'm sorry, taxes do not grow economies and do not create jobs. If citizens of the city can live on fixed incomes, then I think so should the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Maurice. That's our first question. Our second question now will come from Susie Quinn from the Alberni Valley News, and it will be directed first to Hira Chopra.
So continuing with the subject of finances and taxes, how specifically would you look at cutting costs or finding cost savings in the city budget?
The way I believe, I'm a businessman and I understand the income and expenses, and we should look at not just cutting the jobs and anything else. We should look for the revenue resources. If I was the elected person, with the help of my team, I go to the federal government and I challenge them. Why all the Navy jobs are in Victoria? Why I go to the provincial government, I tell them why those jobs are in Vancouver head office. Why not bring those jobs in our community? Bring more revenue resources. Then, being a strong leader and strong team, we tell the department, that's the money you're getting. You have to live in your means and find the way. If they can't find the way, we, as a leader, we can tell them where they can trim. There is room, there is a will, we can do it. That's the way we have to create more revenue.
Thank you, Hira. Cindy Sola?
Well, you know, I look at the infrastructure. I don't really want to take away money from our infrastructure because we do have an aging infrastructure. Our infrastructure is over 100 years old, so we need to do some fixing there. But we have a lot of warm and fuzzy projects, as I call them. So it's like whether I want to fix my roof of my house because it's leaking or go to Hawaii. That's a really weird analogy, but it's the easiest way to explain it. So I need to fix my house. So I need to fix those things. So that's where I'm looking at. So any big projects that that the city does actually work on, we do get some grants and matching grants. Like the sewer, for instance, was $11 million grant. It would have cost us a lot more. So you have to really look at each individual projects on a one-to-one. Yes, we have some vehicles and other things that we need to replace. Well, hey, in my books, if it runs and it doesn't cost a lot of money through the garages and that, then we keep the vehicles and we keep the life of the vehicle longer. There's a lot more ways, but you know what? We have to sit down as a group, as a committee, and work together as a council. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Kevin Wright?
Again, with the economizing, you have to go through, and it's already been repeated and will be repeated again. We have to go into the facilities and look at all of the dynamic of what we're spending our money on. Look at pet projects, which are very common in the programs, to see how they're being spent, and look at also what we're doing as far as finding revenues to come in. We need to stretch out and start looking at how to spend our money. Sometimes getting rid of those fuzzy projects also will kind of kill off the potential to make money as well. Looking at doing art projects, looking at doing renovations projects, replacing garbage cans on Johnson, for instance, getting rid of those types of things will not help us in the long run. We want to have to make sure that we're going to be spending money on the right things. And of course, like you said, you know, going into the vehicle bays and trying to find, you know, do we have to replace this vehicle? Do we have to buy this machine? Do we have to look at renovating this area? And those are things we have to look at as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. John Douglas?
Thanks very much. One of the things I think we could do, Susie, is go through all our departments individually and have everybody in that department to examine it and see if there's any possible refinements or cost-cutting measures that we could make that haven't been looked at before, things we may have been doing for a long time the same way. We could try new models of delivery. For example, we did something recently with our fire department. They went to a 2-person responder instead of a 4-person. So they're actually using less staff to respond to medical events and able to respond to 2 medical events simultaneously. We could make revenue generation a necessity in projects such as the McLean Mill and our steam train, so they're actually working diligently towards generating revenue and decreasing the subsidy to the city. And we could lengthen our vision and make sure we're looking at things that if we do invest in them, they may cost money at this point but generate revenue in the future, such as developing our waterfront. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Maurice Chopin?
Well, I think that the business model that we should be using is cost management at City Hall. And with the exception of infrastructure work, everything should be on the table except for trying to work our infrastructure, which deserves a lot of investment into. But I would be ready to cut just about everything else with that as an exception.
Thank you, Maurice. Mike Rattan?
It's interesting that John should mention McLean's Mill, because there's a couple of issues related to McLean's Mill. So if it's going to be cutting lumber in order to generate revenue, and as directed by the city, then what's the cost of producing that lumber? In fact, it actually costs money to produce that lumber, because that sawmill is not at that point where it can be used for commercial purposes. It's really only for display purposes. So that doesn't make a lot of good business sense in order to do that. Port Alberni has a very high per capita tax compared to other cities, particularly if you look at other cities that may have paper mills in them. We have a per capita tax, looking at the ministry website, of $1,219, which is higher than Campbell River at $849, and certainly higher than neighbors over the other side of the hump of around $800. So we're spending a lot of money.
Thank you. Okay, that's our second question. Our third question will come from, will be directed to Cindy, and it's your turn, David.
Cindy, you spoke about how we have an aging infrastructure and an infrastructure deficit. What would be your infrastructure priorities if you became mayor?
Well, our roads are really aging, and we need to work with that. But it's our water pipes, it's all our piping and all that. We received a report saying that we had to put about $1 million plus into the kitty every year, and that's a lot of money. And where are we going to get that? That's not going to happen because they are aging so fast. So we need to sit down and strategize which is more important, our roads, our piping, and everything. There is grants out there, but the biggest one is the 4321. We're almost there, and now we have to do the wastewater management is really big. I just came from a meeting, and wastewater management is really big on this island. It's getting bigger, and we're going to have to comply to a certain standard pretty soon. So we need to sit down and figure out what is more important and where the money is going. I can't give you one thing right now because it's so big.
Thank you, Cindy. Kevin Wright?
Again, these discussions are going to kind of ramble around the exact same topics over and over again. Of course, we're looking at our sewer, and our water systems are decaying. That is going to have to be a priority. And of course, the roads are getting run down by how the industrial traffic that we can't seem to find a pathway for. This type of program is going to have to be engaged without any choices in the long run. Over the next few years, we're definitely going to have to address them because the community can no longer ignore this situation. That's basically we're going to have to continue type of focusing on what we're going to be doing for our infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. John Douglas?
Thanks very much. Thanks, David. We have a large infrastructure in Port Alberni because of our history. We've built big streets. We've got lots of sewers, lots of storm drains. We've been playing catch-up for many, many years to try and maintain them, and we just throw as much money as we can at them when budget time comes up. One of the advantages of building relationships with other communities is you can go around and talk to the staff and mayors of other communities, which is what I did over the last term. So North Cowichan has a really good program, which I'd like to see adopted here, where we have a set percentage of the budget, and I believe they use 15%. And that goes directly to infrastructure every budget year, so they get a set percentage. They know exactly what they're getting, and they know exactly when they're going to get it. And I think that'd be a good way of facing the infrastructure challenge. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Maurice?
Thank you. I think I'm saying more or less the same thing as Cindy and Kevin and John are saying, is that, yeah, we do have serious problems with our infrastructure. Obviously, the water infrastructure is deserving a lot of work. And it's a question, I think, also of making priorities. What are we going to do first? Are we going to look at water infrastructure, waste management? Are we going to look at roads? And we just have to do with whatever financing that we can put towards those infrastructures that are critical to our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Maurice. Mike Rattan?
Infrastructure is one of those core responsibilities for the city. We cannot ignore it. That is something that we are obligated to ensure operates properly for the citizens of this city. And if it takes 15% of the budget in order to do that, if it takes 20% of the budget in order to do that, we have to make sure as City Council that we pay attention to those needs. Because even though they are not highly visible, they're critical for us in terms of being able to operate properly as a city.
Thank you, Mike. Hira?
I think this is the job of the council, right? We have to provide good water, we have to provide good roads, we have to provide sewer system, and we don't have a choice. And this is not only problem of the city of Port Alberni, it's all over Canada. There's a deficit there. The federal government, they're taking tons of tax from the taxpayers. They should send back some money to fix that problem. City of Port Alberni, by themselves, they can't make it even. Sooner or later, we have to catch those ones. But my only promise to the people is 2 years, I'm not going to raise residential tax, so people have to live what we have. Think about it, how we can do it, look out from the box. What our necessities are, we have to look after first, then comforts, then luxury. We have to have push to the federal government to get some more money. Otherwise, City of Port Alberni taxpayer can't catch up, and nobody else did so far. Thank you.
Thank you, Hira. Okay, it's now time to move on to our fourth question. This will come from Susie, and it will be directed first to Kevin Wright.
Kevin and the rest of the candidates, where do you stand on Port Alberni possibly becoming a coal port?
Oh, well, that's, for me, that's a pretty easy decision. I don't believe that's a good choice for us as far as my marketing plan that I'm looking for the community. I don't see it helping us in the long run. You know, it's difficult as it is to be called a port, and actually having it added as a coal port makes it even more difficult to see us, you know, flourish as a community in general. I don't believe that the idea of the amount of jobs that would be coming and the impact on our existing decaying infrastructure would be actually advantageous to us. So that's basically my stance on coal.
Thank you, Kevin. John?
Thank you, Susie. I'm not in favor of Port Alberni becoming a coal port. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Maurice?
I agree with everyone. I mean, shipping coal out of using our port facilities to ship coal is insane. I mean, if we look at some of the other countries that are doing this, even in Britain, you will see that coal dust on roofs, you just can't remove it. And it is also an environmental problem for us. And for the jobs it's going to create, or was it about 10 or 11, it's not worth it. It's a no. Thank you.
Thank you, Maurice. Mike Rattan?
There is no business case for coal. Coal will cost us in terms of our infrastructure. It does not meet the standard in terms of economic benefits. It doesn't meet the standards in terms of social benefits. It doesn't meet the standards in terms of environmental benefits. If we have coal coming through our city, it has to be stored somewhere. It takes 52,000 truck trips a year through our city, in and out, in order to bring enough coal to fill one Panamax freighter every 2 weeks. And in return for that, our city gets, by Raven Coal's own estimates, 21 jobs. 21 jobs isn't enough to justify that. The threat to our investment at Harbor Key isn't enough to justify that. I'm not in favor of coal.
Thank you, Mike. Hira?
First of all, I just want to clear this answer because coal mine is not in Port Alberni, and they want to ship the coal if they got the approval. They apply again. If they got the approval, the provincial government and federal government has to approve. After they got the approval, what rights city council or city mayor has it, we can lobby one way or the other. You can vote against or you can vote this. But if that coal mine is approved and the road is safe and the trucks are safe, I don't think so. anybody can stop it if everything is legal. What I'm looking for, to lobby the government, make sure the environment standards are high enough that our health is good enough. And there should be some job. We want spin-off job. People are saying 10 job, 20 job. There's always more than what they say. Spin-off job is there. Trucking will be there. But I can tell you this one. If the environment standard is high, I'm in favor of creating some jobs in my town. I have no problem to saying this one.
Thank you, Hira. Cindy Sola?
Well, we're absolutely right. How can we stop it? But one good thing about Port Alberni is we're great at doing picketing, stopping people at the hump. It's been knocked about. Coal's been knocked about for a number of years, and nothing's really happened. The standards and everything, they've had to relook at it. There's been coal prices have gone down. I would be really surprised if it really does happen. I believe in hearing all sides and then making a sound judgment from there. Council will have to have. Council has always stood that they would listen to all the sides and wait for all the regulations to come, make sure the I's and the T's are dotted. There's so many people out there that are going to make sure environmentally that it's all sound before they even decide what they're going to do. Yes, we can stop them at the hump, and who knows where we're going to go. Am I for it? At the moment, until I see the rules and regulations, I'm riding that fence right there. I'm not against it, and I'm not for it at this moment till I hear all the rules.
Thank you, Cindy. Okay, our next question will come from Eric Plummer from the Alberni Valley Times, and he will direct it at first to John Douglas.
A number of concerns have come up from the public about forestry practices in the McLaughlin Ridge, which is part of the China Creek Watershed, which is the city's source for drinking water. What role should the city take in protecting the watershed from logging?
Thank you. I'm glad you asked that question, Eric. So water is probably, apart from our people, which is our greatest resource, water is probably one of our most important resources now and in the future. I think our ultimate goal should be a long-term plan to have absolute and complete control of our watershed, as similar larger communities have developed that process in North Vancouver and in the capital region in southern Vancouver Island. So I think that should be a goal we should put into the community plan and establish a date by which we want to attain that. In the meantime, we have to follow up what we've been doing very diligently over the last 3 years, which is having extremely good dialogue with all the users of the watershed to maintain the safety of that watershed for our people that consume it. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Maurice?
Currently, the BC government does protect the watersheds for Vancouver and Victoria, and I can't see why they can't do the same thing for Port Alberni, actually for many other municipalities on the island. And the only thing I can come up with is we have to apply a lot of pressure on our provincial government to protect our watershed, and the pressure has to be immense. Thank you.
Thank you, Maurice. Mike Rattan?
Most communities on Vancouver Island are faced with the same dilemma. How do we ensure that we have clean drinking water for the citizens in our cities, our communities? We need to work together as island communities in order to address this problem. It's not a simple problem and it's not a cheap problem. It's a very expensive problem to address. But I believe that in working together, we can work with the forest companies and ensure that we're able to protect the quality and the source of the water that we use.
Thank you, Mike. Hira?
I think you need a partnership with the provincial government, federal government. Water is your human rights, and we have a right to clean this water and give to our people safe and drinking water. The only way, this is not a problem in Port Alberni only, this is the whole island has the same problem. Those lands are private landowners. We have to put pressure on the BC government to exchange those lands and give the land back to the community so we have more control. We have to work with other community. We have to work with the forest industry. We have to work and tell our city engineering department to keep eye on them. If there is a problem, we should phone them, keep every report we can do it. But we have to build a relationship with the forest industry and the people, so we should not lose our track. If you lose the track, they will cut more trees, there will be more problem. But we have to push government to make this thing happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Hira. Cindy Sola?
First of all, the communication with the forest companies for the public is the pits, and that's where it starts, the communication. I sit on the AVICC board, which I represent the city and the regional district, the region, for actually one of the committees I work with is the Watersheds. And just today, we at the AVICC have now, we will be creating a smaller stakeholder group to work with Watersheds. And we know Watersheds is it's so big. I mean, it's not just the quality, quantity of water, there's animals, there's the fish, there's the whole thing. And so now we got to sit down and start chipping it away. The governments, which local governments, the city as well as the regional district, have all sent resolutions into the AVICC, and now we're going to start working on them and working with the logging companies as well as the provincial and federal government. And that's what I've been working on for since July. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Kevin Wright?
And as usual, you get to be the seventh in the question, and you get to basically repeat everybody's statements over and over again. It is true that we do need to start taking control of our watershed and definitely get out there and lobby for our community. This has been a subject of discussion for over 20 years, and it's a disappointment that we haven't been able to come to some agreement. It's something that I have been very passionate about and have been talking to a lot of our local community about. Keeping control of our water is so much more important than it has been given credit to in a lot of the dialogue that the city has actually engaged in. I'm hoping to increase that dialogue and hopefully push harder to have our community take control of our watershed.
Thank you, Kevin. Okay, our next question will come from David Wucher, and please direct that, David, to Maurice first.
Should the city take an active role in the development of a transshipment hub and liquefied natural gas terminal at Sarita Bay, and if so, how?
Good question. First thing I want to bring up is that who's driving these projects is not our city. Who's driving the projects are the port authorities. And they've been working on this quite a bit. Now, the first thing I want to touch on is the LNG facility. Currently, there are 23 projects in British Columbia to sell and transport LNG to places like Japan, where we can get premium price. So, but the odds of this happening for Port Alberni is fairly slim. First of all, the plant is not going. It's going to be 70 kilometers away from Port Alberni, I believe. So maybe there will be jobs in constructions, but the bottom line is, I doubt very much that at this point in time that the LNG plant will fly. It's unlikely. We're looking at pipelines. We're looking at investment of over $30 million, and I don't see this happening anyways in the next 20 years or so.
Thank you, Maurice. Mike Rattan?
It's not up to me to really comment on an investment decision that's made by an external company representing billions of dollars. But what is important for us as a city is the people that do come through here or come here, will our infrastructure be able to handle that number of people? The people that will be working on that site, will we as a city be able to identify who should be trained for those specific jobs, be able to provide the training that's necessary for those jobs, be able to work with our neighbors in order to make sure that this city and this area gets the maximum possible benefit from it. But once that investment decision is made, which is very much in doubt, but once it has been made, then it's up to us as a city to make sure that we're ready, prepared for it, and to be able to take as much advantage for the people of the city as possible.
Thank you, Mike. Hira?
I think the city should lobby to the other level of government to make this thing happen. I'm open for business. City should create an environment business friendly. So wherever and whatever we can to promote those projects, if they are economically feasible, they are environmentally responsible, I have no problem to promoting Port Alberni. We have to sell Port Alberni. We have to tell other people there's a deep port there, there's a room, there's a First Nation and private people have already MOU in the place. Lots of other places, they are looking for the MOU with the First Nation. This is a very good step. Who knows it will happen or no? It's a business decision. They're looking for tons of money. But I hope as a city head and the city council should do everything, whatever they're in the power, to not to send a negative message. We are welcome them. Thank you.
Thank you, Hira. Cindy Solda?
Politically, I think we can do a lot. We can do a lot of lobbying for the First Nations as well as the Port Authority. I look at our infrastructure. Yes, we have an aging infrastructure, but is our infrastructure ready for them? We used to be. Remember, we used to be one of the highest employers in BC, and we built our infrastructure around the logging and the forest industry. I remember at one convention, Kitimat said, hey, no, we don't want LNG, although they have it. Because our infrastructure, our housing prices went up, we can't afford a house. And I stood up and I went, excuse me, we'll take the LNG project if you don't want it, because we would like the jobs, we would like the housing booming and all the other benefits that come with it. And I think it would be an amazing thing. And of course, we have a lot of training and stuff like that we would have to do education-wise. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Kevin Wright?
Yeah, the shipping hub and the LNG are those projects that I've talked about where they're quite a far away. We have a lot of catch up to do, even just in the training, to get members actually into the program to go and actually work on the facility. One of the things that I've advocated for is the fact that we have dozens of empty stores in our community, and it would not service the needs of these people if they did in fact come here to work, if you did infuse quite a large populous mass. Nanaimo would certainly do well on us, because we'd end up having people getting on the road and driving out of our community again, and that's one of the fundamentals that I've been trying to strive for. If we have an economy that's built here, whether LNG or the shipping hub actually comes through, we still have a dynamic that's actually growing and incrementally growing. If it comes, it's great. If it doesn't come, we still have a community growing. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. John Douglas, please.
So of course we have to work on things within our city, but we have a lot of opportunities here. We have a group of First Nations here that are very economically driven. I've been a spearhead on the PATH, the Port Alberni Transshipment Hub project, for a few years now, and think the LNG is a good thing for working towards. The question is, should we work with our region? Should we work with the provincial government? Should we work with other communities on Vancouver Island to regional development? Should we work with the federal government? Should we talk to big business such as Jimmy Pattison and C-SPAN, as we have in the last few years, to develop our region and benefit the entire region? And the answer is, of course we should. Of course we should do that. So, thank you.
Thank you, John. Our next question will come from Eric from the Alberni Valley Times, and please direct that question to Mike Rattan.
Okay. For the last 15 years, the city has provided millions of dollars in subsidies towards the McLean's Mill National Historic Site, including $239,000 that was budgeted to go towards the site this year. How can we make this attraction more financially self-sufficient?
There's a template or report 2007 that was put together by a really good committee, and it produced actually a roadmap for how the McLean's Mill could become more self-sufficient. And we need to revisit that template and see what's happened with it, and see if things haven't been done, is there some way in which we can get it back on track? Can we reach out to the community for the help that we need, and can we reach out to communities beyond Port Alberni to see if there's some way that we can integrate our needs for McLean's Mill with opportunities in other cities? So it could be opportunities in terms of marketing, it could be in terms of staff, in terms of models of success. But we do need to look at that 2007 report, revisit it.
Thank you, Mike. Hira Chopra.
Thank you. I think your question is very right, that we spend tons of money, millions of dollars on that McLean Mill. When we got the contract more than 40 years with the federal government, we got some money. At that time, whoever was in the council, they make a decision right or wrong, but we are on the hook. But we don't have to spend more money if we don't want to. It's the council decision every year. We have an agreement with them to give them $239,000 a year to run the way it is. If I have a choice, I will tell them time limit. You have 1 year or 5 years or 2 years. If you can't make it self-sufficient, you're out, then I will put a proposal for private business people to RFP for $1 and tell those people these are the guidelines we have with the federal government to run the McLean Mill for $1, then you have always saved some money. So you have to give them time limit, that's all.
Thank you, Hira. Cindy Sola.
Yeah, that's interesting because, you know, when I first got elected on council, the budget was really high and council took it down, and we have been taking it down. It needs a lot more promotion, and of course with the amount of dollars they have to run the mill, it's not a much. There was a 2007 study done, and I believe we've done a few things on that report. Of course, with some of the budget constraints, we couldn't do any more. There was a contractor hired to work on promotions and see how the mill could make some funding, and that person finished at the end of July. So there is a lot of ways to go, and I think with a new council and you sit and you strategize on it, it can be done. Remember that McLean's mill is contracted just like Chamber of Commerce. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Kevin Wright?
And of course, I am the one that was contracted to actually help out the McLean mill this year. I have worked very hard with them trying to find some monies. We did investigate the 2007 report, and it is in fact something that should be revisited. This year we had, I found thousands of dollars of donations. The community is very into it. The businesses community definitely wants to get involved, but they have not been very well welcomed into the program. But it has improved a bit. We've actually had a 12% rise in ridership this year through the program. We had donations from different companies, as well as for photography programs, as well as getting advertising done for the community. And I'm looking to do more this year. Of course, I had to retire from the program because I had declared for running for mayor, and after whatever happens, I'll get back to it if that's the case. Thank you very much.
John Douglas.
Thanks very much. What we need to do is instill a demand for revenue generation within the operation, while we recognize at the same time the incredible volunteer work that makes everything out there work. We need to look, as Kevin was suggesting, you know, much better marketing, much better ways of carrying out the business within the operation. Simple things such as a green screen so people can have their photographs taken before and after their experience on the train. More weddings, more events like that, and all those sort of things that could be open for development. We need to adapt the operation to other venues. They've just done an incredible amount of work out there now with fisheries habitat, which is going to change the whole dimension of the mill and attract an entirely different group of people. So that could open our way up to better successes in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Maurice?
I think the first thing we should do is put out a business case for the mill, and something quite thorough that will tell us should we stay in it or should we stay out. Now, if we're going to continue subsidizing the mill, is that perhaps it should be something part of a bigger tourist attraction. For instance, could we build a heritage park around the mill? And another thing that we might want to do, another option would be, well, why don't we head over the mill to a company or venture company that deals in this kind of entertainment? So we have some other options as well, but what we might want to do is put a task group together, or task team, to come up with some feasible answer on where we should go. We all have different opinions on it, on how to run it, and maybe we should hand this over to professionals. Thank you.
Thank you, Maurice. You're watching the 2014 Port Alberni mayoral debate, and we're going to pause for just a minute, and we'll be right back with more questions and answers from your candidates.
On the boards out there, guys. This is your territory, Grimson. Do your job.
Grimson. Hello? Hi, honey. What? Now? All right. The itsy bitsy spider climbed up the water spout. Down came the rain and washed the spider out. Out came the sun and dried up all the rain, and the itsy bitsy spider climbed up the spout again.
I love you, Daddy.
I love you too, sweetheart. Hey, it's my girl. You know, my daughter.
Love. Pass it on. A message from the Foundation for a Better Life.
Welcome back to the 2014 mayoral debate for Port Alberni. I'm Mark Hanley, and this debate is being brought to you by Shaw TV and 93.3 The Peak. We're in the midst of our question period, and our first question back will come from David, and please direct that, David, to Hira.
The development of Canal Beach has been very divisive. What do you want to see the former plywood mill lands look like?
The development at the beach, as in the paper and on the radio and the TV, everybody shows that things are not doing well. That property was zoned as industrial zone. City of Port Alberni changed into different little zone, and at the end of the day, it turned into a beach. City Council gone for the trip, and we approved $50,000 for the safety for the people. When we gone there were ditches there, the steel was there. We don't want anybody can cut themselves and sue the city. So that's what we did. We didn't approve $500,000 this year because we have no plan. Until I see the plan, what we want to do it, I will not going to spend any more money until we see the taxpayer and the other people are ready to work on this one. But beach is there and it will be there. Thank you.
Thank you, Hira. Cindy?
Okay, so for Canal Beach, we actually we've asked Councillor Chopra, Councillor Washington to take a look and work with service groups who are interested in putting some parks, maybe a little playground, and do some work down there. So I don't want to spend any more money until, first of all, we have to do some better communication with the partners that are involved, because we do have a covenant on there. And so we need to work better in communication, and then appoint 2 councillors. Obviously, there might be 2 new councillors to work with the service groups to help enhance it. We've also leased out part of it to the Port Authority, who will be doing an $8.3 million project down there. So I think there's a lot that the Port Authority will also help to enhance on that particular Canal Beach area. So there's a lot of more work to be, and I think we need to do a lot more in communication. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Kevin Wright?
Yeah, Canal Beach is, is what it is at the moment. I'm glad the city went ahead and made it safer for the community. I don't believe at this point it needs much more investment until we can determine exactly what it can be. Certainly with all the litigation going on around what it's supposed to, as far as insurance issues with Western Forest Products, that has to be delved into. And I think for the meantime, I think we should just, try to keep it as best we can. Cindy's absolutely correct. We should look at service industries, service communities to see if they can actually help out building benches, parks, park areas, and possibly some bathrooms down there. But at this point, just, leave it as it is until we can figure it out.
Thank you, Kevin. John Douglas?
Thank you very much. Our waterfront in Port Alberni is one of our greatest assets. Over the approximately 2 miles of waterfront, the public has access to approximately 1% of that. If you look around the world at communities that are on the waterfront, one of the ways they've managed to become different, more successful communities is to develop the public access to the waterfront. It's a no-brainer to me. As far as Canal Beach goes, it's a simple site. We've sat on it for approximately 22 years, doing basically nothing. Now we've got a beautiful little site that can be beautified for the public to go down on, and then partnered with that is a great economic development that we've worked on with the city and Canadian Alberni Engineering. So it's a great asset for everybody in the community. Thanks very much.
Thank you, John. Maurice?
I think I'm going to agree with everyone. Since we can't use it as a beach, certainly turning it into a park is a very viable option instead of letting it sit there and doing nothing with it. So definitely a park would be an excellent option for the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Maurice. Mike Rattan?
When the city agreed to take that land over, the city knew full well that there was a covenant attached to it and what the conditions of that covenant were. And before a decision was made to use that property for something other than what that covenant indicated it should be used for, city needed to make some pretty clear decision about future potential liability for the citizens in this community. So that's one of the first and foremost responsibilities of City Council, is to make sure that citizens are protected from future liability. So the decision having been made to turn it into essentially a park is not likely to be undone. But we're going to have to be very careful as a community, very consultative as a community for any future development for there and what it may or may not become.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, our next question will come from Susie. If I've got that right. You're changing the rules here. And please direct that to Cindy.
Okay. The 10th Avenue crossing issue has stimulated much community debate in the past few weeks. And I just wondered, in your opinion, if the community votes yes in the referendum, how do you see the 10th Avenue crossing proceeding?
How do I see it proceeding? First, it's a non-binding vote. You're looking at $50 per household on top of what taxes you pay per year for 25 years. Do I agree with it? No. Could council vote against how I feel? Of course they can. A mayor is one vote, one voice. First of all, the community is asking for no increase in taxes. So here we have something that's a $5 million project, so stated, and the city hasn't even had a chance to take a look at this $5 million proposal. So you want your taxes to be at a low level, or do you want it to be up? We need to have more consultation about it, and we need to take a look at it. There's so much to it, and $50 on it for 25 years, really, I'm against it. Thank you.
Kevin Wright?
Well, the 10th Avenue crossing would be something we'd all like to have as a luxury. One of the things I was a little frustrated at is that we've had a question for over 50 years about one particular bridge, and then the last minute they decide to change the referendum to include a smaller, less expensive bridge. But I think there's going to be a lot of confusion on the ballot, and I think that's going to make people choose an option they think is a better value. You know, the original value was supposed to be $15 million, and now it's dropped down to $5 million, but at the last minute, the options changed, the bridge has changed, the idea has changed, very little consultation with the community, and I believe that they will walk into this thinking that this bridge is actually cheaper than it actually is. And they're going to be thinking it's the bridge that goes straight across and not the bridge that goes up to where behind the Cherry Creek. So I think that's going to be a very confusing referendum, and I think it's going to have to be decided on by council if that question was valid in the first place. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kevin. John Douglas?
Thanks, Susie. The question, as Councillor Solda mentioned, is a non-binding vote. So if people vote in favor of it, what we'll have to do is we'll have to embark on proper studies, consultations, in-depth cost analysis, and see how much it actually would cost. And then if the cost is of a certain amount, we'd have to go to an actual legal referendum in order to borrow that. In the process of that, of course, we'd have numerous community meetings to determine if people actually want to go forward, you know, in that direction that far. So that's what we'd be faced with if we got a yes vote on that. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Maurice?
I think the first thing we should do is wait for the referendum. And depending on the results, if it's a no, that solves all our problems. If it is a yes, then we should put up a business case for it, because spending money on some frivolous expansion of or build a bridge there may or may not be a wise option, because the city can certainly use that money to invest it in more important issues like infrastructure. So my answer on this is no, I'm not for it.
Thank you, Maurice. Mike Rattan?
Thank you for the question. This is an example of the City Council putting a question before the taxpayers without having had the opportunity to do due diligence. We have City Council staff that should have had the opportunity to review this thoroughly before presenting the question to voters. It has huge implications for us in terms of business on 10th Avenue and business on Johnson Road. Are there other things that could have been done to make traffic flow a lot better on Johnson Road, if that is the major concern? We haven't had a chance to talk to fisheries. We haven't had a really good look in terms of the actual design at it. We haven't had an opportunity for a good look in terms of the economics, in terms of the cost of transportation. And we don't really know what will be the impact of this in terms of the transportation study that was just done. Do we really want people using that and not getting out of their cars? Isn't that what we want to do as a city, getting people walking and healthier, not driving more?
Thank you, Mike. Hira?
Thank you for the question. The reason we did this one, because every election time, people want to know, are you going to make this road? Are you going to ask for the bridge or no? Last 18 years, every election time, everybody who run or win or lose, they say, oh yeah, we will bring it, bring it. But finally, this time, the council make a decision. The question will be very clear. On the November 15, it will be asked to the people, are you in favor from bridge from 10th Avenue to Cherry Creek Road for the price of $5 million? Yes or no? If people vote yes, I will do everything to make this thing happen. If people vote no, it's end of discussion. It should not be discussed every year or anymore. That's the way I stand for it. It's people choice.
Okay, thank you, Hira. Our next question comes from Eric Plummer from the Alberni Valley Times. And would you please direct that to Kevin Wright first?
The next term is 4 years, which is 1 year longer than the previous term. Over that period of time, how will you ensure that the public plays a role in the direction of the municipal government and that key decisions are not made behind closed doors?
Well, first off, we've had a lot of discussion about the in-camera, which is very difficult for the council not to endeavor into. Of course, we have land, labor, and law. We have issues with that we have to address behind camera, behind doors, when it comes down to making purchases and deciding what to do with lands. Certainly, we would advocate for most of the community to get out and come into council chambers and get involved in a lot of the discussions. If they have concerns, they should get together in groups and you know, make an effort to, you know, talk about it in, you know, an actual process. A lot of times you get bumped into at a store and you end up getting an earful from one individual, but you also have to look at it that you need a collective consciousness to actually make these decisions. And hopefully they'll take the time to get out and discuss with the council and with the mayor to decide what we should be doing with our community.
Thank you, Kevin. John?
Thank you. Thank you, Eric. As you mentioned, it's a 4-year term, which is going to be great from my perspective if I'm so privileged to get reelected, because it allows us to get more things done. In this past term, it took us about a year to get organized, about a year doing things, and then the next year was sort of getting ready for the election. So that's a real positive thing. I think personally this last council term we've had the most transparent council we've ever had before by doing a number of things. One of them was introducing a public input period to our council chambers meetings. Another was coffee with the mayor and council that we've had on numerous occasions. We've had frequent community meetings. And I'm hoping to just carry on with those and increase them in different ways, shapes, and form to encourage people to come out and get involved. The other thing I'd really like to see us do is introduce online broadcasting of all of our community meetings and our council meetings so people can participate through social media, or if they're out of town or not able to make it down to our meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Maurice?
Certainly, we should engage our citizens in a decision-making process and perhaps stretch us a little bit more by involving our businesses as well. And one of the things that could happen, we could have workshops where not only our citizens could come, but also as our businesses as well. And I do agree with John that, yes, we should use social, I'm sorry, we should find ways to more or less deal with our citizens and have the participation in the in social media, for instance, as John said. That would be ideal. Thank you.
Thank you, Maurice. Mike Rattan?
There is a perception that key decisions are being made behind closed doors, but I'm not sure that it's a fair perception. I think the problem isn't so much that those decisions are being made, but that they're not being reported on. And so the community doesn't get that information in a timely, organized, structured, predictable way. If I become mayor, one of the things that I'd be looking at is every time we send out a water bill, which goes out on a regular basis, I'd include a report from the city. This is what we did during this period of time. This is what we spent the money on. This is what we're planning on doing over the next short period of time. That way, we're able to report back to the citizens, make sure we've gotten into all households on a regular, organized, predictable manner.
Thank you, Mike. Hira?
Under the law, sometimes we have to do in-camera meeting under 3L, labor law, and we have no other choice. But I'm open for transparency. If I got elected, I will run this council as a government. Every council member will have a department, and all the head of the department will be their deputy minister. They will bring the report every month. We will have a special meeting every month. They will report to the public where the money coming from, how much they have achieved for that money, and there will be nothing hidden there. And I can't guarantee you that there will be no in-camera meeting. Under the law, we have to do something, but it should be less, whatever we can. But everybody should be inclusive. They should feel proud of being on the council, and then those people are in one team. Then you can see more participation from the people. That's the way you can achieve best result. Thank you.
Thank you, Hira. Cindy?
Again, it's been stressed, the 3 Ls that are in camera, land, labor, and law, and interesting enough, when I was first elected, somebody asked me, do I believe in open meetings? And I went, oh yeah, I have nothing to hide, no problem, until I walked the shoes. So that was quite interesting on that. I also believe that 2 councillors should be appointed to corridors like Johnson Road, Redford, and 3rd Avenue, so they can go and talk to people at the same time. We also have established committees who are involved, and they go and talk, and I'm talking about senior homes and that, so people are there. I agree with John Douglas on the committees that have been struck. I believe also to expand our social media, so there's a lot more we can do, and if anybody else has any ideas, love to hear it, because there's lots we can do to make more communication happen, so come and talk to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Our next our next question comes from David, and I'd ask you, David, to please direct that to John.
The city has pledged to work with First Nations, but little has happened. What would you do to bring the city and First Nations closer?
Well, it's like with any other group of, you know, we have to have good communications with other groups, whether it's other mayors or provincial or federal governments and First Nations. We do have the good communications with our First Nations at this time, but I would like to see them improved as much as we can. We've got some work going on with the Seashot First Nation to bring them into our sewer system. We'll probably be having discussions in the future about water. So when you deal with other groups of people on projects such as this, it tends to lead to other opportunities as well developing. So I'm really hoping that will increase our relationship with them. The Uchuckalsat First Nation and the Huayat First Nation are very economically driven and doing projects in our community, so hopefully we'll improve our relationships with them. And then with the Huayat, of course, we have the Upnet project, so we'll work on that. Thank you.
Maurice?
Well, the First Nations and the city, we share common goals. We're looking at the economy, the water issues, and there are many others that we can work together to make that happen. And I think that if we form a strong partnership with the First Nations, is that we both can help each other, the city and the First Nations. So I think there is a lot of, makes a lot of sense to work with them very, very closely because of our shared responsibilities in the valley. Thank you.
Thank you, Maurice. Mike Rattan?
Not only has the city pledged to work more closely with First Nations, we're obligated to work more closely with First Nations, particularly when it comes to developmental projects. We need regular meetings with our First Nations in the valley. We need to meet with councils and with their leaders. Port Alberni is the Geneva of First Nations. There are more First Nations head offices here than in any other community in Canada. And we need to be able to take advantage of that. We need to be able to work together for the common betterment of everybody in this community, because it's by working together that we're going to make for a better, more sustainable, more reliable future for everybody that's here.
Hira Chopra?
Personally, I have a very good relationship with the First Nation. When I was the chair for the regional district, we did lots of good things with the First Nation. And I think if you open for business, you have to understand that we are neighbors, different level of government. We have to learn to respect them first, gain them trust. That's the only way, and bring them inside. If they open a business in community, we should ask them what they need. If they are successful, this town is successful. Any money they make in town, they spend in town. That's good for the First Nation. And they have opportunities now. They are different than they used to be. Now they're business-minded people. They want to make money. They want to make sure that people are working. So anything we can do to improve our relationship and the respect for each other is a better thing. And that's the way I'm looking for, to show respect. Thank you.
Thank you, Hira. Cindy?
I believe we have good relationships with First Nations. On the regional district as chair, I have visited 10 of the First Nation communities out of the 14 in the region. We have an accord, the city has an accord as well as the regional district. First Nations sit at the table of the Planning Commission. I was appointed on the UBCM. One of the committees is First Nations, and the First Nations Committee oversees policy development related to Aboriginal as well as treaty negotiation, self-government, and taxation, and we focus on the relationships building between First Nation and local governments. So we are working at it. I think with this appointment too will help even make it stronger for our community. So I believe we have, and we can do better if they, whichever way they choose to. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Kevin Wright.
I think it's very important for the Native communities to feel welcomed into our community. I've been working on a lot of art programs trying to raise awareness for cultural diversity and inviting their community to come into our community and share their culture, more invested into our space. It's really amazing to see the Chucklets that actually spend a lot of money redeveloping the Somas. It's going to be an amazing development to see for us to really kind of invest ourselves in their culture and be more part of that. And it's really nice to see the Hoopachets have been working on their summer market. That was an amazing success this year, and a lot of people who were able to go down and share with all the arts and crafts and all the local businesses. And I think that they have rightfully to be proud of what they've been getting done in our community. I'm looking forward to more of it happening. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Our next question will come from Susie, and would you please direct that to Maurice?
Maurice, with more than 1 million tourists driving through Port Alberni towards the west coast every year, how do you feel we should how do you feel we can get more people to spend more time and money here, or do you feel we should be focusing on this at all?
Great question. It's there are a couple of things that we certainly that we can do now. Going back a few years ago, I was led to understand that for every night that we can keep a tourist in our city or a visitor, it would grow into $1 million to our community, and that is a lot of money that we're not really focusing on. So we should have a lot more venues for these people to come and see in Port Alberni. Now, we do have some excellent things that the city has done, including our partners in the valley. And yes, we should push this a lot, and if we can really give them more attractions or more reasons to come to the city and visit our city and spend the night, we certainly should go after that kind of business. Thank you.
Thank you, Maurice. Mike Rattan?
Thanks, Susie. This is an example of what's the first impression that people get when they come into our community. What does it look like? What does it feel like? So in order to address some of those things, we need to address the image that we project as a city coming down Johnson Road, which isn't a very pleasant image at this point. It could be improved a lot with some of the least expensive things, which are paint and flowers. That way people get that positive image. And then if we work with our First Nations, we can actually create some opportunities, some reason for people to actually stop, something that's uniquely Port Alberni's. So extending our boardwalk, working with Ducks Unlimited to provide some opportunities, and working with local businesses, and then working with the neighbors to help with our marketing plan. Coombs does a great job, Tofino does a great job, Qualicum does a great job, Port Alberni needs to do a great job as well.
Thank you, Mike. Hira Chopra?
I think the tourists can be stopped if there is something for them, and we have to sell our Port Alberni, how beautiful this town is. The reason the beauty is doesn't look beautiful because the part of the entry of the city is not city of Port Alberni, it's part of the regional district, it's in the Cherokee. So we have to develop a relationship, and we have to work with the regional district and other level of government. That road is a provincial road, we have to work with them, plus all the business partners. So we have to talk to all the business people who have shops there, how to beautiful. It's a cheaper way to do things, but you need a partnership. The other things we should do, we should look out of the box. what things people will stop. Maybe we should give them special incentive, people who can open a water slide and other things. When the people are having kids, they saw the water slide, they will say, Dad, Mom, stop here. We have to do something for them to stop. Thank you.
Thank you, Hira. Cindy Solda?
Some people have stopped because they can't afford to stay in the hotels in the West Coast, so they come here and they stay here. They might go back and forth to the West Coast, but they do stop. I did a walkabout and with some other councillors on Johnson Road this summer, and they actually took me on the road and said, take a look, what do you see? And basically, you got to realize Johnson Road belongs to highways. So if you want to put a medium down there, that's not going to happen, you know, because highways is not going to do it. So we talked about how do we fix it up? Do we fix it up block by block? And we talked about a 1% surcharge, like a BIA, that would just go to the businesses that they would fix block by block. And only one business down there said they objected to it. So there's more to do. There's more discussions. There's more that we could do down there. Are we going to stop the traffic? Don't know. But we can still fix up the Johnson Road. But we need to sit down and have more dialogue. I mean, this just happened this summer.
Thank you, Cindy. Kevin Wright?
You know, as of course I've been working on the uptown as well, but I've really been focusing a lot on Johnson as well, trying to understand why it's not working. One of the biggest issues they do not address on a regular basis is parking. There is no parking on Johnson Road when it comes down to actually getting people to stop, because you end up getting a difficulty. A lot of people in the town consider it very awkward to try to go and visit some of the businesses along that corridor. And also calling it a corridor is another mistake we keep making. It's an avenue, it's a throughway, and if you keep on calling it a corridor, it just kind of enforces that programming. And also, we definitely have to work a lot more on our branding and our signage programs. They're quite disjointed and they don't really work well. Certainly the invitation into the city, as Hira was saying, is not very pleasant to look at, and we need to address that kind of ideal as well. And also the Stay and Play program, which we discussed and Cindy brought up, is about trying to encourage people who are going to Qualicum to come play here, and people who are trying to go to Tofino to come stay here. And those types of programs can be initiated as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. John Douglas?
Great, thank you. And yeah, that just brings up, like, there's so many things that we can do. A lot of them have already mentioned. Beautifying our entrance will help. Marketing in different ways through tourism avenues will help. Our waterfront, again, is one of our greatest assets. So we have 2 new beaches in Port Alberni now, Harbor Beach and Canal Beach. We need to develop those so they're usable, so people can come down with their kayaks, their kiteboards, their windsurfers, their canoes, and bring people up into the uptown area. Harbor Key is, you know, we need to work on that some more. We've had talks recently with the Port Authority about opening up the land beside SOMAS and around the Fisherman's Dock for more stalls for people to sell arts and crafts and things like that, and get a new fuel dock in there. That's in the works. So that'll bring people into town and help them stop here. And revitalization of the community, including uptown, including Victoria Key, and changing the traffic patterns and getting the logging trucks off 3rd Avenue will assist as well. Thanks.
Thank you, John. Well, I hope you guys are all feeling good over there. We're moving right along. In fact, we're down to our last question now. This question will come from David, and would you please direct that, David, to Mike Rattan?
One of the biggest complaints about the last term of council was the lack of leadership. What qualifies you to lead a group of councillors and represent the people of Port Alberni?
I have a master's in administration. I was principal in a school with a staff of 110 and over 1,200 students. The skills that you have as principal skills of consensus building, of establishing committees, of establishing vision, those are all transferable skills to the position as mayor. So I bring a lot. First became a school administrator in 1979, so there's a fair amount of experience back there. And I'm looking forward to the opportunity.
Thank you, Mike. Hira Chopra?
I think I got the most experience than anybody else on this, people who apply for this job. I've had 18 years. That will speak by yourself. And plus, I have a 5-year as the chairperson of the Rainier District. When I was the head of the Rainier District, things were doing really good, and the things were really good with the city of Port Alberni at that time, because me and Ken McLean worked very well. But our current, the chairperson and our city mayor I don't think so they look eye to eye. That's why lots of improvement doesn't happen. The leader has to be inclusive with the other people. They have to listen to each other and bring their ideas, give them some responsibility so that you can win the team, you can win the game. The only thing I will bring, I will listen to them, convince them they're a very important piece of this puzzle, and we have to respect. Respect is a big thing. I work together. That's my quality. I work with my union. I work with my business. I'm the guy who can run the show. Thank you.
Thank you, Hira. Cindy Solda?
People can go check out my resume also on my website, cindysolda.com. I am the chair of a 13-seat board, the ACRD, the Alberni Clay-Clot Regional District, which represents 24,000 people in the region. I've chaired provincial boards and organizations. The other thing too is I'm about to be the chair of the AVICC, which represents 51 communities on Vancouver Island, and that is an elected position. So if my peers think that I am able to chair and take over as president, that gives me some faith there, and I have no problem running the boards. So I believe I could do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Kevin Wright?
Of course, my time in this community is a little shorter. I've done leadership roles in my other communities as leaders of different boards over in Qualicum and Parksville as well. But up here, of course, we have my Uptown Merchant program that I've been working on, and been working on it for about 2 years. And trying to get 28 different merchants with 28 different ideals and 28 different opinions, trying to actually get them to go in one direction, was definitely like herding cats. But I have felt that I've found their choices are starting to go towards a common goal, and I think that's one of the things we need to work on the most in the community, is getting people to feel that there's something to work towards. And it isn't just about chairing a board, it's about actually changing the way the community feels, it's about the way the community looks at itself, and it's trying to find a sense of pride in what they're doing, and that's why I believe that I would make a good leader in that regard.
Thank you, Kevin. John Douglas, please.
Thanks very much. And thank you, David. I don't think it's so much a question of lack of leadership in the previous term. It's more a question of where our community is at in its place in history right now. We're moving from a model of a one-industry town to a town that's going to be very diverse in its economic stability. And it's understandable that certain people grow uncomfortable moving in that direction. Some people want to retain the one-industry model, some people want to move forward, and I think what happened on our council is sort of symbolic of where we're at in our whole community. That's why we have so many people stepping forward to get engaged in this election. I'm very comfortable where I'm at right now, being the mayor. I feel very comfortable and very excited and hoping to have the privilege of carrying on and helping form a new team with a new team of councillors. And as a precursor to that, in the beginning, we'll have some intense workshops on orientation programs, how we want everything to run, and exactly what we'd like to get done. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Maurice Chopin?
Thank you. Going to council experience, based on the performance we've seen in the last decade, I'm not exactly sure whether it's an asset or disability, whatever which way it comes, but certainly I don't think that really matters. What I think matters is the ability to coach people, to be able to understand development, planning, project management, and these are all things that I've done in my 30 years of experience with a major oil company in Canada. I've traveled across the country, I've met a lot of people, and I've certainly dealt with business on an extremely extensive basis. So I'm offering my services to my city, and my main goal would be to build the economy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Maurice. And with that comment, we have come to an end to our question period, and we have one final phase in our debate today, and that is giving each of our candidates a 1-minute opportunity to directly address you, the voter. We'll start this process with Mike Rattan.
Successful cities have a culture of collaboration, a distinctiveness, master planning, combined with community design and a quality of life. To help Port Alberni become a truly successful city, we need to establish a business advisory council to help the city in its decision making. Citizens need to be presented with multiple choices for budgets. City needs to consider doing a value for its money audit. We need to consider where our money is spent and we need to consider how that money is being spent and how we consult with our citizens in terms of making tough choices. When it comes to coal, once the review is done, as a city, the city council, we need a public meeting to discuss our public's concerns, and we need to have a city-initiated review of the submission to this point. It's not too late, but it's almost too late. Thank you for the opportunity to address you.
Thank you, Mike. Hira Chopra.
Thank you. In choosing a mayor, I believe it is important to have the right person fill this role. The mayor is only one of a group of people who set the direction of the city, but the mayor can set the tone of how the city council functions. Also, the mayor is the person who regularly meets the citizens, business people, industry people, and the other level of governance. Mayor should also have a wide level of knowledge and experience in local civil politics. In short, the mayor is the face of the community, and he's often the one all people tend to look to it. During my time on council, we have achieved so many things like new hospital, multiplex, high school, new college, university, athletic and GM, port dealership, and more. I come to this position with a vast knowledge and experience. I have a union experience, executive experience, business experience. Please look at my resume on November 15. If you think, please consider to vote for Hira Chopra. Thank you.
Thank you, Hira. Cindy Solda.
I just want to say to the community, we didn't get the way we are overnight. And we're not going to fix the problem overnight. It's going to take time, and it's going to take money, and it's going to be, and I just want to say, I have the experience, leadership, and integrity, and my resume will confirm it. And I promise, the one thing I can promise is that I'm going to work hard for you. I have said in the past, we don't have one issue in our community, so we need to all sit down and look at it. We need to be a little more positive in what we do too, and be positive when we talk to the community and talk outside of the community. And remember, I just want to continue to set priorities to ensure that we move forward to become the vibrant, healthy, sustainable community that we can be. So take a look at my website, give me a call, I'm accessible, and so we can move forward into the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Kevin Wright.
Well, everybody up here has their own virtues and they have what they can bring to the table. We have to decide what we're going to be doing with our community over the next near future. And one of the beliefs, the reason why I'm actually running is because I do believe that one of the biggest holes in our community is really merchandising, marketing, and getting our community to regain the respect that it deserves. My forte is in merchandising and marketing, and I have a very creative mindset, and I have worked very well with my uptown merchants, and it is just a little microcosm of what I'm planning on doing. It was actually just to show what we could do with very little money and to change the dynamic of our community, which I really believe is one of the biggest issues. We need to see the communities change how it views itself, what it needs to see in itself, and to actually express that to the rest of the communities around us. Thank you very much for considering me. And thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. John Douglas.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. These are all good people up here, great people that have stepped forward for this role, and with some really good ideas. And you've got a lot of thinking to make an informed decision on who to vote for as mayor. Over the last 3 years, we've charted a new course, and I feel now we need to maintain that course and move it into a higher gear. We've built new relationships with the province, the federal government, and business, and we need to maintain those relationships now and grow those relationships rather than presenting a new unfamiliar face with a new agenda. Some of the main objectives over the next 4 years will be economic diversity and job growth through strategic planning, increased health services and health-related jobs, increased post-secondary education and training, and community engagement in meetings and decision-making. And last but not least, raising the positive profile of Port Alberni. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Maurice Chopin.
My goal for Port Alberni is grow the economy, grow the economy, grow the economy. I've dealt with major industries in my 30 years with a major oil company, and I think I can use that experience for our economy to become a reality. And what we need for our city again is we need new businesses and we need new industries. Lastly, I do have a true and tested business model that can be used to make it a reality. So if we can fix their economy, everything else will fall into place. Thank you.
Thank you, Maurice. And with that comment, we have come to the end of the 2014 mayoral debate for Port Alberni. I would like to thank Shaw TV and 93.3 The Peak for making this opportunity available to all of us. I would like to thank our journal panel, Eric Plummer from the Alberni Valley Times, David Wucher from 93.3 The Peak, and Susie Quinn from the Alberni Valley News. I'd also like to thank our candidates. First, for coming out today. Secondly, for the wonderful decorum that we have seen in this debate and discussion today. But most importantly, I want to thank you for stepping forward to participate actively in our democracy. It is something that we need done, and you deserve our thanks for doing that. Again, I thank you for watching this debate. It has been brought to you through the efforts and services of Shaw TV and 93.3 The Peak.